There is an old saying, if you truly enjoy what you're working, you will never work a day in your life.
Okay.
So it is not about getting a job, it is about getting a passion. When I was in high school, I was not that good in studies. But when I did my electrical engineering, that is when I found my true passion. That is why I went from what could be called a high school student who barely got the equivalent of a first class to get 2 gold medals in electrical engineering. The next 50 years belongs to me, the power system engineer, which means that the next 50 years belongs to every electrical power systems engineer that is anywhere around the world. You know why?
Welcome viewers to my next episode on GCRIS TV. As you are aware, those who watch GCRIS TV, in the recent weeks, we are uploading a series of podcast interviews of Kendriya Vidyalaya IIT Alumni Association, which is celebrating its 40th year. This episode will be part 9 of the podcast series. And today's guest, the alumnus of 1977 batch, Dr. V. Mani, is joining from Seattle. On behalf of everyone, on behalf of the Alumni Association, I warmly welcome Dr. Mani.
My name is Mani Vadari.
Nice to have you. I think being a weekday, you find time to join the webinar interview, and you are joining from Seattle in USA. Can you briefly tell the location on the map for the benefit of viewers who are not aware of the Seattle?
Absolutely. First of all, namaste to everyone, and to GCRIS TV, thank you so much for bringing me on. I truly appreciate that. Seattle, Washington, if you think of the United States as a big rectangle, Seattle, Washington is in the northwest corner of the country. If you know companies like Microsoft is based out of Seattle, Washington. Boeing is based out of Seattle, Washington. Amazon is based out of Seattle, Washington. If some of you may know Starbucks coffee, it is based out of Seattle, Washington. So it is in the northwest corner of the country. And so Seattle is the crown jewel of the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, I think you're giving a very vital and important information before we begin this interview. Sir, can I move on to the first question?
Absolutely.
You passed KVIIT in the year 1977. Then you gone to Hyderabad, studied in Osmania University, if I'm correct, and you are a gold medalist. Then you moved on to US.
I am.
And you achieved, and you are in Seattle. So briefly describe connecting your journey from KVIIT school campus till you reached your location in USA.
Definitely. So I finished my central school in Kendriya Vidyalaya IIT Madras in 1977. I actually did 1 year in Bachelor's of Science and Physics at Aragappa College in Karaikudi, and then got into Osmania University, Hyderabad, to do my electrical engineering. And once I finished my electrical engineering, I came out at the top, both in electrical engineering and College of Engineering. And using that, I managed to get admission in several universities in the United States. But University of Washington was very gracious enough to give me a full, what they would call in those days, a research assistantship. So I came to the US with a full research assistantship. I worked for about 6 months to make enough money for my plane fare. And so I used that, bought my plane tickets, and landed in the US in October of 1983.
Okay.
And joined my master's at University of Washington. And over a period of 7 or 8 years, I finished my PhD also.
Okay. That is a very interesting story for the viewers of GCRIS TV, especially the younger generation. Sir, before I go on to ask you the next question, I wish to take this opportunity to read your profile in brief for the benefit of GCRIS TV viewers. A condensed form, of course. There are a lot to convey, but briefly I mention. Dr. Mani Vadari is an IEEE Fellow, Board of Director, Advisor, Electric Industry Visionary, Business Leader, Author, News Editor, Bloggers What on Money's Mind, R&D 100 Award Finalist, President Modern Grid Solutions, and the list goes on. Dr. Vadari is an affiliate professor. Sorry, Dr. Vadari is an affiliate professor at the University of Washington and an adjunct professor at the Washington State University. Dr. Vadari, apart from these activities, has published two popular books, namely Smart Grid Redefined, Transformation of the Electric Utility, and Electric System Operations. So list goes on, but for sake of time, I think you stop at this point. Sir, you got a rich profile, and you are in the US right from 1983. So
Yes.
how do you describe your journey as on date?
Journey is just like any other first time immigrant. You start with nothing. I came to this country with $10 in my hand, and you build your life over a period of time. I finished my master's, and halfway through my PhD, I got a job. There was a local company that was developing real-time computer systems for the electric utility. I'm still an electrical engineer, working as an electrical engineer, working with electric utilities. So I started developing real-time software to control and monitor the electric utility, the transmission grid, distribution grid, and so on. And about 10 years after that, I had a key hand in enabling the wholesale markets in North America. And then after that, I joined Accenture, where I was for 12 years. I was a partner at Accenture responsible for smart grid and system operations worldwide. I stayed in Accenture for about 12 years and then joined a company called Battelle, which amongst other things runs several of Department of Energy's national labs. The national labs are somewhat similar to CSIR labs in India, but much, much larger. And many of them have done, each national lab will have somewhere between 8 to 20, 30 Nobel Prize winners in their staff. So 7 of those national labs reported to me as the Vice President of Energy Infrastructure. And then I left that after 3 years and then started Modern Grid Solutions, which is where I am until now. The journey has actually been interesting because I started as a hardcore power system engineer doing electrical engineering things to solving the broader electrical engineering problems that we are seeing now with renewable energy, storage, solar, wind, and all of these things coming in. So the problems change, which requires our ability to solve them also to constantly change.
Okay. Sir, can I ask you this question? With your rich experience spanning more than 30 years, suppose you are given an opportunity in India, and what is the right climate, the requirements for you to carry on the activities which you're doing in USA, in India, any part of city, any city, what is that you require from the government of India or from the academia?
Really, what you require is an ability to do your work without hindrance from external entities. That is one of the things that I have enjoyed. The regular corporate philosophy, politics will always be there. Whether it's India, US, Europe, doesn't matter. They always exist. Corporate politics. But for the most part, if you are able to do your work well, then you want to get recognized for it. If you come up with new ideas, you want to be able to explain them to somebody, sell the idea, get the approvals, and do the work.
Okay.
India has a lot of challenges, not saying no to that, but at the same time, that ability to be able to work without hindrance and both political and otherwise becomes an important aspect because that's what we've been used to in the US.
Sir, in this field, the one you are now into that, how do you feel the growth in India? How do you feel? I mean, what are the steps required to enhance this field?
Oh, India is doing a tremendous amount of work. There is so much solar coming in, there is so much wind coming in. There is a lot of focus on renewable energy. There's a lot of focus on reducing energy dependence on oil and so on. So India is doing a lot of good things. I track India very, very carefully, just like I track many other countries on what they're doing. And what India can do is actually try to nurture the private sector more. One of the issues that I find in India is that everybody expects the government to do something, but in reality is I think if you let the private sector and you unshackle the private sector, it's actually quite amazing what they are able to create. You want the next Google, the next Microsoft to come from India. You
Okay.
don't want it to come from Seattle, Washington, right? While that's what happened, that should not be the only way to do it.
Okay.
That ability to unshackle the private sector and allow them, and it is happening. So please don't get me wrong. It's not that it is not happening. It is happening. We need it faster.
Faster. Okay. That is a very good point you have highlighted. Sir, for the younger generation, especially those who are doing electrical engineering, be a diploma or a bachelor's degree or master's degree in India, what is the roadmap you will suggest for them? If you want any, I mean, the guideline for them to be a successful electrical engineer and achieve things.
Thank you. That's a very good question. Um, the way I look at it, so when I give keynote speeches, sometimes I use this explanation. The 18th century, the 19th century was all about industrial revolution. Early part of 20th century was really about planes, trains, and automobiles. The latter half of 20th century, you started the computer generation, internet came, and so on and so forth, right? The next 50 years belongs to me, the power system engineer, which means that the next 50 years belongs to every electrical power systems engineer that is anywhere around the world. You know why? Because nobody can work without electricity. Nobody can work without energy. And we have all proven that electricity is the cleanest form of energy, which is why we are moving cars to electricity. We are moving heating to electricity. We are trying to move homes to induction stove. Everyone is trying to move towards electricity because it's the cheapest, most cleanest form of energy. So if you keep that in mind, the entire world is going to depend on me, the power system engineer. You can talk artificial intelligence, you can talk data centers. If they have no electricity, they can do nothing.
Yeah.
So the advice I would give to an electrical engineer now is that the opportunity is dramatic, not just slight. I have to admit, 40 years ago, when I graduated in 1977 from KVIIT, when I finished my engineering in 83, it was a different matter. It was very limited what you could do with a power system. So there were a few people like us who continued to stay on. Many of the electrical engineers moved on into computer science, moved off into the Microsofts of the world and things like that. But if you persisted, you would find that there was a tremendous amount of progress. And we have seen more progress in the last 10 years in the electrical engineering field than we have seen the previous 100 years almost. So I think the future for a young electrical engineer coming into the field, whether it's a diploma or a full-fledged engineer or a master's, the opportunities are tremendous. Examples in the US, right? Utilities, um, vendors who develop products for utilities and so on cannot hire enough electrical power system engineers. I was talking to the general manager of a very large electrical equipment and software vendor. I will not name who they are. And one of the things he told me is like, money, I want you to find me because I have a tremendous amount of contacts in the industry. He said, I want you to find me mid-career masters and PhD students. He says, in the next 1 to 2 years, I'm going to hire somewhere between 200 to 500 of them. Just in the US alone. Just think about it. Utilities, my local utility, small utility, not a very big utility. 100 and what, 1.1 million customers. By comparison to Indian utilities, really teeny tiny, right? at any point in time, right now, there are more than 200 openings for electrical engineer that they are not able to fill. So in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's never going to be you're never going to become a millionaire, you're never going to become a billionaire, you're never going to become a trillionaire. But you know what? An electrical engineer will always be very comfortable in life. And I'm a perfect example of that.
Yeah. Sir, that was a wonderful information or the inputs, suggestion you have given to those who are interested in the electrical line. And now, sir, moving on to the general question. You were there from 1983 and you were a successful technocrat, I can say that. And what are the other activities you carry? I see your profile. You are into other religious activities. Can you briefly mention those activities?
You know, one of the things about coming to a new country, you go to India, the temples are already there. When I was in Seattle, when I came first in Seattle, there were no temples here at all. And just being very honest and transparent, I'm not a religious person, but I felt it was important that we have a temple. So we have now put together the fundamentals of a temple. We are building an extremely authentic temple designed by a Stapati from Chennai, built by Shilpis from Chennai who are staying here on a religious visa. They're coming here. The core construction is, of course, built by a local construction company because you still have to pass the construction code and the electrical code and the HVAC and AC and all of those things. But beyond that, all the Indianization is being done by Shilpis from India. The design is being done by a Stapati from India and so on. So that is one of my greatest pride and joy, that having been one of the original 12 founders of this Hindu temple in Seattle, Washington. And now you'll see that over a period of time, we have almost 30, 40 temples in Seattle now.
Okay.
And that is not a competition. That is a source of pride because we started something that has begun to grow on its own. I also run several other small non-profit companies, or what you call in India NGOs, non-government entities, non-profit entities. One of them is called Spark, and it's essentially a summer internship program for high school students. One of the benefits of being in Seattle for 40 plus years is I can put my arms around any CEO local of a startup company or a mid-sized company and say, I want you to take 2 or 3 of my high school students. I have one startup company who takes somewhere between 8 to 10 high school students as interns every year, every summer. I have professors from University of Washington taking high school internship students from me. I have professors from West Virginia and Morgantown, completely on the other end of the country. And 2 of my students spent their summer working for a software company in Chennai.
Okay.
So that's one of my programs, that non-profit that I run. Another non-profit that I run is called Girls Rock in Science and Math. Unlike India, for some reason in the US, girls seem to have a phobia. Girls or women have a phobia to get into science and math. So when my daughter was in 9th grade, she actually started this company that I helped her start. It's called Girls Rock in Science and Math. And they actually hold classes for elementary school students in 3rd to 5th grade to help them become passionate in science and math. They run seminar series for middle school students, 6th to 8th grade. And this whole company is run by high school girls. It's an amazing entity. It's called Girls Rock in Science and Math. And the whole company is run by high school students who see this as an opportunity to get work experience in real life. We have a president, we have a vice president of communication, a vice president of social media, a vice president of curriculum, and so on, and instructors. So that there is a lot of pleasure in giving something back to the community. In fact, we are about to start a Girls Rock in Science and Math chapter in Pune, India also.
Okay.
Yes.
Sir, very nice to know, because you have a busy schedule in the corporate world. Equally, you find time to do all these activities. So really amazing to know all this. And I think I should thank the Alumni Association for providing a virtual platform to get all these points for the youngsters. So on behalf of G Chris TV and on behalf of the Alumni Association, I want to say thank you. Before I finish, any other message you feel you want to give briefly, apart from this, what you said enough?
What one message? There is an old saying, if you truly enjoy what you're working, you will never work a day in your life.
Okay.
So it is not about getting a job, it is about getting a passion. When I was in high school, I was not that good in studies. But when I did my electrical engineering, that is when I found my true passion. That is why I went from what could be called uh, a high school student who barely got the equivalent of a first class to get 2 gold medals in electrical engineering. There is an old saying, if you truly enjoy what you're working, you will never work a day in your life.
Okay.
So it is not about getting a job, it is about getting a passion. When I was in high school, I was not that good in studies. But when I did my electrical engineering, that is when I found my true passion. That is why I went from what could be called a high school student who barely got the equivalent of a first class to get 2 gold medals in electrical engineering. Just think of the transition in 4 years.
Okay.
Everybody in my high school class was better than me, smarter than me. And that was good because I was not challenged. I was not good. I was not enjoying it, but I needed that passion. When I got into electrical engineering, I got that passion. What that passion is, I cannot tell the youngsters, but my advice to them is to find that passion. I have a son who is a dancer.
Okay.
I have a daughter who is a hardcore computer science person. Find that passion and you'll never work a day in your life.
Okay. I think those are beautiful words, sir, to conclude. So I say thank you once again. Hope to meet you in some other occasion, in some other virtual forum. Thank you.
Thank you so
Very
much.
And
Namaste to all.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Okay.